All right, something that I don't think has really been talked about in terms of Mythic Plus that really needs to be is removing the amount of RNG we have to deal with. And there's a few bosses specifically where their RNG completely fucks you. Um, I said an obscenity within the first 10 seconds of the video, demonetized. But there are significant issues with the design of these Mythic Plus bosses, and they need to be adjusted significantly, or just in the way I think they should be to make it more fair and balanced and yada yada, right? So let's talk about the first one. Archmage Soul in Everbloom. We pulled this boss, it started casting Cinderbolt Storm, and both me and the healer died within the first 2.5 seconds of that boss casting. So what does this mean? Right here, I'll put this over, right? We'll go to our little handy dandy calculator. The boss, we'll take it that the boss has been casting for 2.5 seconds, right? Because that's the earliest damage instance here. So the boss casts every 0.25 seconds. So 2.5 divided by 0.25 equals 10. Me and the healer both got hit by 4 bolts, which means we got hit by 80% of the potential damage from this ability from only 40% of the party. Our Warlock didn't get hit. Our Warlock maybe got hit once, and our tank maybe got hit once. Right? But both me and the healer got hit by 80% of these bolt casts before we even had a chance to, like, our healer said that she could have like flourished and could have pre-done some stuff, but this is the problem. This is the actual problem with this ability, is because as it stands, being able to take 80% of this ability's damage between 2 people in your party, you can't plan around this. It's pure RNG. You can't do anything about it. So, in a high key situation, what do? How do we live this? Okay, does that mean we just have to send all of our cooldowns from the start? Like, do I need to spell reflect, wall, and distance to make sure I don't get 4-shot by a Cinderbolt Storm that's just randomly hitting me? I could take 1 bolt and completely waste all my cooldowns. I could take 4 and then barely live and be like, oh, it worked. But guess what? The boss casts this ability back to back within like 25 seconds of each other. So if I have to send everything on an RNG ability like this, it means I am unable to have my defenses ready for the next one. And if everybody has to do that, you just prolong your death and you die to the next cast within the next 25 seconds. You're a dead man walking at that point because you have nothing. You just have to, hope I don't get hit by 4. And not only hope I don't get hit by 4, I hope I don't get hit by 4, and I hope I don't get by them back to back. This 0.3 second cast and this 0.0 second cast are 2 Cinderbolt Storm ticks hitting me simultaneously back to back. And the cast still has 1.5 seconds left, so there is still 6 more Cinderbolt Storm bolts that this thing can cast. I've technically eaten my 4, so it won't hit me again, but at this point, I'm dead. It's too late. Same thing with my healer. Just bop, dead, right? It's not fair. It's not balanced. You can see the healer got hit. I got hit. The healer got, like, just based on these timings, the healer got hit. I got hit. The healer got hit again. I got hit again. Somebody else got hit. I get hit again and instantly again and die. And then the healer takes one 0.75 seconds apart and also dies. How is this fair? How is this balanced? So we need paint, handy dandy paint, to solve this problem for us, right? Because this is how the mechanic should work. How raid bosses and encounters are designed is the tank takes the brunt of the damage, but everybody else takes AoE damage from the fight. That's the damage people are taking, right? The tank is taking melees and swipes and whatever, but everybody else is taking raid-wide damage. So that's how these abilities should be treated. It should go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And this character right here, this should be the tank. 2 through 4, it doesn't matter. DPS, DPS, healer, DPS, healer, DPS. It doesn't matter. The only thing that's important is the tank should be the first one to get hit. Why? Because if everybody gets hit in sequence, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The tank gets hit 4 times. Everybody else gets hit 3 times. We are all hit in a sequence, meaning the damage is consistent. We can play around it. We can heal around it. We know how much damage we're going to take. Otherwise, we are screwed. If I randomly, like let's say I was this guy, right? So if I was this guy, if I randomly instead get hit by an extra bolt, but I didn't pop an additional defensive on top of my initial defensive, I just die. Which means I have to recast a defensive for an ability I have no idea if it's even going to deal damage to me. Because these are the situations this can happen, right? I could take 1. This is how this ability works. The tank could take... I could take 1, and this person could take 4. This person could take 4. This person could take 4. And the tank could take 3. It does this sometimes. How are these people, including myself, ever going to know how to defensive or play correctly if they have to decide, if they have to wonder whether or not they're taking 400k from an ability or they're randomly taking 1.2 mil from the ability, right? Actually, sorry, they got hit by 4 bolts, right? They get hit by 4 bolts. That's 1.6 million at 400k each. So you have a 400% damage variance on this ability and no way to play around it. You just fucking die. And if you don't die, that means you sent all of your defenses incorrectly. So when the boss casts this ability, 20 seconds later, you're just going to die because you have nothing left. Incredibly problematic. It is pure RNG. I don't know how many keys I've lost to, like, we were literally crushing the whole key playing this boss. Ancient Protectors is annoying, but it's a fine boss. You know why? Because if one person is being targeted by 2 bolts at the same time, because there's a small overlap, after they stop doing the AoE and they start casting, they can both target one person and one-shot them. But guess what? You can kick the cast. You have counterplay. You can kick one of those casts, have them eat the damage, they get targeted again. You can kick the next one, and that means you still have 3 kicks available. One for the Toxic Bloom, 1 for the Revitalize, and 1 extra just in case. Right? You have control over the situation as a group to play it correctly. There is no control in this. No control. You just hope to God you don't die. Incredibly problematic. Over and over again. Just a major issue. A massive design oversight and something that needs to be changed. Otherwise, this key will never be consistent, the damage will never be consistent, and players will not be able to improve because you can't improve against RNG. To beat RNG, you need reps. So to beat this key, you just have to run the 27 enough times that, oh, hey, someone didn't get 4-shot this time. Wow! Or the person who did get 4-shot is big tanky, and they're fine. Wow. That's not fun. That's not fair. That's not cool. That's not interesting. It's bad design, and it needs to be fixed. It's a consistency problem. Now we have more bosses. You know why Throne of the Tides on Tyrannical is one of the worst dungeons to do? Because this boss and this boss, both RNG fucking nightmares. Complete RNG nightmares, right? This boss, people have made a method against Focus Tempest specifically. Water bolts, you can kick. Geysers, you can dodge. Shock Blast, doesn't happen very often. Big single target damage, you can use walls and mitigations against it. However, this little fun boss, you know what this little fun boss does? Here's the room, right? Here's our room. Here's the boss. Angry face. Here's the tank standing under the boss. People have made this a strategy, right? The tank is standing underneath the boss, and the rest of your party, a box. Make a little box around. in attempts to make sure people aren't being cleaved, right? You want to spread out as much as possible so one person gets chained and then it goes to somebody else. You're trying to mitigate the RNG as much as possible, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. Sometimes you're just dead. Because sometimes, guess what the boss likes to do? Okay, it does this. Chain lightning goes here and then bounces and hits this guy, right? This guy take about 500k, and then the boss right afterwards goes, hey, haha, I'm gonna chain this guy, and then it's gonna bounce over here, right? So this guy right here just took like 1.5 mil within a unattainable span of damage. And if it was cast not frequent enough, if you could do this, right, and it did this, and you could health pot, heal yourself defensive, and be safe for it, that's fine. But this boss will just cast it over and over again. You can get by one, but once again, it's the same problem as Archmage Soul and Everbloom. It's the same issue where, cool, you lived this one. Guess what? The boss is going to cast the ability in another 25, 30 seconds. You have nothing. Hee hee. You're fucking dead again. You're just a dead man walking and you don't even know it. And you're just dead because of RNG. It shouldn't work this way. So how do we redo it, right? How do we make this not absolutely terrible? Here we go, right? We go to this. There's the boss in the middle. Here's the tanker man. Here's all of your team, right? It's very simple. Once again, it's just the tank takes the brunt of the damage, and then then it can chain, brunt, chain, brunt, chain, brunt, chain. So it hits everybody. The problem is I don't actually know how many times this thing casts. Its dungeon journal description is bad, and I don't know the exact like how many hits it does. I don't know if it hits 4 people exactly, but even in this situation where it chains off of each person once, but the brunt of the damage is on the tank, right? It's going to be a lot of damage for the tank, but they have tools for that. We have many different, like I could rally for the tank. We have sacks. We have iron barks. There is life cocoons. Like, there's plenty of things you can help other people with. Like, even if, let's say, the Augivoker is running this trinket out, this healer trinket out of Everbloom, so they actually have an additional, like, 1-minute shield while also having a mastery trinket to, like, basically have, like, a 1-minute sack to save people. Like, you can play around that if it's consistent. If it's not RNG. If it's not a goddamn nightmare. And people don't like Throne, because guess what? This isn't the only boss that's a problem. The third boss is also a problem, because when you get to a high enough key, oh yeah, there's a dispellable flame shock, right? Huge upfront damage, and then the dot afterwards. The dot afterwards can be dispelled, but the huge upfront damage is a big problem. A massive problem. Once again, it is an ability. Once again, it is an ability where we'll make a new one. We'll just do it. Here we'll have fucking, oh boy, Tentacle Man. Right, here's the Tentacle Boy. He's angry. He hates you. His Flame Shock, like let's say here's player 1, 2, 3, and 4. It won't cast it on the tank, but I have seen it where it's done this, where it just goes, hits our Augivoker, hits our healer, Augivoker, healer, maybe one guy, Augivoker, like it's not consistent. Like, in the key we did, in a 26 time Tyrannical, I think I'll show. I don't know if it shows it in that one, but the people we want this ability to hit is me and the Warlock, because we're big tanky, right? But we're not the ones getting hit. The squishiest members of our party are being manhandled and mangled by this ability over and over again. And we actually they just run out of defensives and die. There's no counterplay to that. There's nothing you can do about it. He just says, you know what? You're dead. Hope you have battle reses. And that is another problem. You know why battle reses are so necessary in these dungeons? Because If RNG fucks you, you need a band-aid fix. Oh, RNG ruined the boss for you? Let me get my little band-aid. You're back alive again. We only get a couple more of those. Let's hope we get past the RNG bosses before we're all dead. Right? So you get past this boss and you're chilling. The last boss is easy. These two bosses are just RNG shitfests because it's not consistent. The damage isn't consistent. You know what's funny, though? You know what's really funny? The last phase of this boss, this Mind Rot does consistent damage. It goes from player to player to player to player. Doesn't target the same player twice in a row, and just does consistent damage the whole time. The same boss is an RNG nightmare fuel fest, and has the correct consistent damage profile in it, right? This shouldn't happen, right? This crap shouldn't happen. What it should be is, oh, the tank can't get it because the tank's taking all the buster damage. All right, Flame Shock 1, 2, 3, 4. And me as a warrior, after I see the sequence, you know what I can do? I can start spell reflecting this one. Like, it's like, oh, I'm this one in the sequence. Now I can start spell reflecting. Now my gameplay, the way I play, my defensive usage, how I can work around this ability, all works together because it is consistent, because it works correctly. I don't like the initial pattern, whoever it decides to hit can be random, right? Maybe it hits me first and I go, oh shit, and I just get blasted. But guess what? I have a defensive for it. We can plan around the damage. We can work around it. We can do things around this. But if the same people are getting hit over and over again, what are we supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I just watch my teammates just die. I have no influence on this. I have nothing to help them. Especially as a warrior, Rally got neutered. Darkness gets double the value in Mythic Plus, but Rally doesn't. Obsidian Scales is a 1.5 minute cooldown, but does the same thing as my Rallying Cry. Fix it, please. For the love of God. It's not fair. It's not consistent. Fix it, please. And guess what? Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. We're not even done. We're not even done. So, we have more bosses that are fun. Everybody's most hated boss, the most talked about boss, the most visual boss. There's fucking Ellesmere tweets and people talking about Yasma. How do you make Yasma consistent? How do you defeat this boss? Is such a problem. You know why? Once again, they made Racking Pain uninterruptible, so you have no control over it. But you know what? Just like old Fishy Boy, you can just get hit over and over by this thing, and then you have Racking Pain into Soul Rend, and you just die because the boss says, you know what? Fuck you. And you just die. The entire dungeon is easy. The hard part is getting to Yasma and having enough battle reses to deal with their bullshit, right? If you die to a spider, you know what? Fuck it, man. Bad movement as a group. We died to the spider. Our problem, right? That's one thing. I don't think the spiders are bullshit. The spiders are bad because the players are bad. And in pugs, player movement is bad. So that is just a pug problem, right? But the Racking Pain targeting the same person 3 to 4 times within like a 6 or 7 cast span, we can only do so much, right? Once again, it's a consistency problem. At least Racking Pain has a cast time and you see who it's casting on, so you can see it and you go, oh, I'm being casted on. Hey, I need bark. Hey, I need this. I don't have anything, right? At least it does that. But like still, you can do that all you want to, but if it decides to Racking Pain the same person 3 times in a row, which I have seen it do, we just have nothing for them, right? That's our bark, that's our sack, that's their defensives. Like, and they just, good thing we have battle reses. Once again, that little band-aid fix, just, it'll be okay, honey. We'll just res you with no defensives or buffs and a small amount of health. We'll just res you, sweetie. You get a couple more of these and just hope the boss stops targeting you. Terrible design. It needs to be changed. It needs to be consistent. The first sequence of casts can be random, whoever, but if we can actually learn and see who's going to get hit, see who's going to get cast, play around it, it makes it so much better. It puts the value, or it puts the ability and the onus on the player to not mess up their defensives or anything like that, to be able to live and survive these encounters. And you don't even have to change these, don't even have to get harder, right? All of these abilities I'm talking about, if they're consistent, it doesn't mean they need to hit harder, because Mythic Plus as a keystone system will get harder just as you put in a higher keystone. It does it itself, right? At a certain point, some people just can't live because that's the extent of the key, right? So then we swap stuff up, try Icy Prez, try Verse, try this, try that, try these different trinkets to try and live, like, but at that point, at least we're trying to solve a puzzle, and someone didn't give me a 400-piece puzzle, and 30 of the puzzle pieces are from Grandpa's train set puzzle, and 40 of my pieces are somehow in Grandpa's train set puzzle, and we're trying to build the puzzle with the wrong fucking tools. Like, we just can't do it, because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. These things need to be changed. The consistency needs to be changed. And one of the reasons why I think it matters so much for Mythic Plus specifically is because it's honestly, as much as people don't like to think it is, Mythic Plus is pretty much, if not the primary game mode of retail World of Warcraft. It really is. And guess what? There's more bosses, right? There's more bosses. The first phase of this with the boss casting Shadow Bolts, he can just cast 2 in a row at you. Dead. If you're not 100% health with the defensive, just kills you 2 in a row. Bye-bye. Like, just terrible. Like, why doesn't it have a target and a cast time? Why can't we know who's being hit so we can actually, like, play around it or mitigate it or do something about it? Because if people have to spend mitigations on an ability they don't even know what's going to hit, they wasted the mitigation, and it means that even if they did use the mitigation correctly, now they don't have it for the next time because they're not... You can't play... The player does not have control over the situation. You can't play better if you're in a dark room and you can't see anything, right? It's a massive problem. Sorry, my voice just kind of went weird there because it's so annoying, right? And even when we go to Waycrest Manor, right? Most of these bosses, you're doing things fine. Soulbound Goliath. Why is this an infinite stun on a thing that you need to kill that does more damage the more soul harvests the boss have? Like, people are playing playing mages to blink out of this. They're running PvP trinkets to deal with this. Why do we need to be stunned, man? We're already taking a crazy amount of damage. This Soul Thorns, either, once again, like this, needs to be consistent, or you need to not be able to, for these Soul Thorns, what if it's just you can't get rid of the root? What if you're just rooted in place and taking a crazy amount of damage? You gotta kill it. Hey, then at least your party can influence that. One of the biggest problems is when you even think about something like Aug Evoker, what happens if your Aug Evoker isn't running, like, double damage trinkets, like, on-use damage? You get targeted by this, so now it's just DPS tank healer trying to kill this Soul Thorn. And like, the Aug Evoker's there to help you live, but it's even worse because of a boss like this, because you have no way to actually, like, influence it. Like, it's just bad, man. This is just bad. They either need to remove the stun, they need to make it consistently stun people, like I've seen here. There's a lot of ways they can remove the RNG from these things and not just completely neuter them, right? It's still fair if you're not stunned. You still have to survive the damage, right? But not only can you not survive the damage, guess what? It's another one of those fun abilities where you have to re-mitigate it. One of the only defensives you can use, like in Rage Regeneration, like Fury has, is you can use it while stunned or incapacitated. Wow. On the other characters I play, I can't turtle while I'm stunned. I can't blur while I'm stunned. Other classes, they can't use their defensives while they're stunned. So it's non-interactive. You either have to use your defensives and waste them before it even comes out, or you just die. Or if it targets you twice in a row and you did use your defensive, now you just don't have a defensive and you just die again. And then you need shit like Prop Paladin to bop you out of the Soul Thorn once every like minute or however long the cooldown is, just to try and live it. And then you bring mages in because mages can blink it, even though they removed the ability for druids to get rid of it for some reason. Like, it is such a... And then they hotfixed druids so they couldn't do it. It is such a problem. It's so stupid, man. Just make it not stun. Just make it not stun. Make players have agency when dealing with this thing. Make it just be a cage, right? Fuck it, dude. Instead of having it be just a thorn that stuns you, what if it's a cage that surrounds your character and has the damage zone underneath you? Then they have to break the cage, you can get out. I don't know, man. Like, something better than this. I know the devs have been taking time off for the winter break. I'm glad they have time to spend with their family, and they deserve a break. And I don't think this is not me harping on the devs and being like, oh, you guys suck. No, not at all. This is me expressing what can be and should be improved about the game and what I think is worth them spending their time on. I don't have any ill intentions toward the devs because they have made something that I care enough about that I'm talking about a virtual fucking ability from a boss because it matters to me. Because I care. They have made something I care about. And that's why I'm talking about this shit. And that's why I hope they listen to us. Because stuff like this is just a problem. And the only way to play around it with like PvP trinkets and cheese and mages are the only thing that get to get out of it, it's just not fun. It's not fair. It's not interesting. There's no player agency. It's just a problem, right? Like that's not like... So we've talked about Everbloom has the RNG. Even Darkheart, think it has RNG. You go to Shade of Xavius, and let's say he gets a stack or two, and he Nightmare Bolts you and feeds the weak, and then he just Nightmare Bolts you again, and then you can just get fed the weak again and just die with no defenses and no chance. Haha, we'll put a battle res on there. Like, battle reses shouldn't be a fix to this RNG design. It's just the same thing, man. Make it consistent. The initial, like, think about that. Like, think about Xavius P1, right? Before the apocalyptic things, before the fire, before the damage buff. Imagine that. You go into the fight. Every time you go into the fight, the sequence is different. You know who's going to get hit by what after a set of the sequence, and then you can set up and plan around the more difficult P2 of the fight, dealing with that sequence and knowing how to deal with it and play around it, man. You get to actually have your time, your effort, your expertise matter, and it means something. But having to react to a 1 second cast on something that you might not even be able to live because you had to defensive the last one and now just have nothing, by the time you ask for your healer, like, by the time the Nightmare Bolt is casting and you say the word bark, and the healer's trying to figure out who said bark and who needs it, and within that 0.5 seconds, they can adjust in their brain that they heard who said it, know who said it, and bark them so they don't instantly die to an ability that they can't interact with. Like, yeah, that's a good player, but shit, dude. Is that really what we're building around here? No. No. Absolutely not. Like, does Dawn have... I mean, actually, yeah, too. Dawn has it, too. Manifested Time Waste. Chronofaded. First part of Dawn? Hey, man. Hey, buddy. How about you die? Same thing with Blighted Galakron. Corrosive Infusion? Actually, you know what? I don't think I've been targeted by Corrosive Infusion twice back-to-back. I could be wrong. But I don't think I actually have. So this might actually have some sort of sequencing with it. But Chronofaded, you can just target it over and over again. As a Fury Warrior, I just hit D-stance and I live. Right? And we're fine. This boss, it has its cast sequence, but, like, none of it's unfair. Morchi, fine. Battlefield, fine. Battlefield's kind of weird. Especially when you get, like, an ad spawn in Narnia, but if you go to kill the ad, the shockwave just kills the ad. So, like, you need to save CCs for the, but that's playable. Like, you can play around that. Like, you can play around Battlefield, right? This boss, pretty consistent. Orbs consistent. Play around. Like, Murazon's Rise might be the only dungeon that RNG isn't going to ruin you. Like, RNG simply won't ruin your run. It's just a tight timer. And that is very sad in the current spectrum and in the current set of this Mythic Plus dungeon set. So a lot of work needs to go into making these things fair or playable, right? Because losing your key to something you have no way to interact with is just bad. It's just bad, man. And I have now ranted for 30 minutes about this. So hopefully they fix these issues. I think it's just a consistency problem, and players just... The reason why tanky classes are so good is because if players don't have agency, you just have to be tanky enough to live the mechanic whether or not you get hit by it. And that's a problem. And I think it would also help towards the viability of other classes or other specs, just because now that you know you're going to take this amount of damage and you can plan around it and live it, a lot of spec can probably live a lot of things. They just have to be ready for it, able to use defenses around it. Ugh. Man, a lot of talking. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, Jesus Christ. All of this whole video, all of this off of losing a 27 Everbloom because the boss decided to hit 40% of the people with 80% of the damage. And I just couldn't handle it. And I just hated it so much. My play just doesn't matter. It just died. Ugh. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace.